The film opens in London on a Friday night. British intelligence officer George Woodhouse is walking somewhere. He goes to a pub and meets with a man called Meacham, who is his superior. He tells George that 5 suspects have been named in the leak of a highly secret software program called Severus. One of the suspects is George's wife, fellow officer Catherine. Meacham gives George 1 week to find the culprit. George cooks food, goes to see his wife Catherine, and tells her about the reason they invited the guests, to find out the Severus software leaker. They invite the other 4 suspects over for dinner. The 4 meet in a bar before going to George's home. They are their co-workers and fellow spies, satellite imagery specialist Clarissa, her boyfriend Freddie, the agency's psychiatrist Zoe Vaughn, and Colonel Jimmy Stokes. The 4 members arrive together, and Catherine opens the door. George drugs their food to make them more relaxed. Before long, Freddie tells the group about how George surveilled his own father and exposed him for his crimes. George turns things around by getting everyone to play a game where they come up with a resolution for the person sitting to their right. It gets to Clarissa, who says she wishes Freddie would stop sleeping with another woman. Things get more heated. Freddie and Clarissa argue about the cheating question, and Freddie insults her, saying that just because her father betrayed her mother, it doesn't mean every man does it. He says he hasn't slept with anybody in over a year other than Clarissa, but George reveals he slips up somewhere during office meetings. Clarissa stabs Freddie through the hand, though he seems too inebriated to care. George starts to investigate Catherine. He finds a ticket for a film, Dark Windows, in Catherine's bathroom bin. George says he would do anything for her. She asks him, "Would you lie for me?" He says yes. Meacham is at home with his wife when he suddenly convulses after appearing to be poisoned. His wife comes to his aid. In the next scene, on Monday morning, George is in the kitchen when Catherine comes from upstairs. George asks her to a movie on the next Wednesday, but she has an out-of-country operation. He puts his ID in her bag. He asks her to a movie the next day, and when he brings up the film, Dark Windows, she claims to have not heard of it. She agrees to watch a movie on Tuesday. George later finds out that Meacham died, but it is said to be a heart attack. George picks up his ID from Catherine's office at work, and he sneaks into her office. He finds a log on her computer about an upcoming trip to Zurich, Switzerland. Catherine goes to a therapy session with Zoe. They discuss Catherine's relationship with George and her devotion to her career, while she also prods Zoe with questions about her relationship with Jimmy. Catherine says that her superior, Arthur, thinks her marriage is a liability. Zoe asks if her superior is right about her, and whether she would choose her work or her marriage if she had to choose. She diverts the topic. Meanwhile, George goes somewhere for fishing in a small boat. Jimmy finds George while he is fishing and informs him that someone in the agency used a fake ID, Margaret Langford, and is keeping £7 million in an account in Zurich. He also says the fake ID was once used by Catherine, his wife. George asks if the money was deposited in increments or as one lump sum amount. He says it is a lump sum. Later, George and Catherine see the movie, Dark Windows, and they have dinner. Catherine leaves later for Zurich. George later goes to Clarissa to ask her to redirect a spy satellite towards Catherine, while she is meeting a Russian operative in Switzerland, without recording the footage. She says it is impossible, but he says it is possible because he has done it before, and he would be in her debt. She reluctantly agrees to do so. With George watching in on the meeting the next day, George sees his wife meeting a Russian through a spy satellite. The facial recognition software shows his name is Andre. She is not selling but buying some information from him, but they don't find the whole information because Clarissa's supervisor is watching their every move, and they have to turn the satellite in time before anyone finds out. Jimmy goes to a meeting with Zoe. They break off their relationship, and she tries to set him up with a different psychiatrist. He asks her if she is dating someone else, and she accepts it, but Jimmy reminds her that he told her secret information regarding Severus, and he implicitly threatens her. She tells him everything he said during the therapy sessions is confidential. Jimmy gets a call and leaves Zoe. Meanwhile, Freddy gets some details about something on his desktop. He shows it to George, and it is the name of the man Andre, the same person George saw with his wife. Arthur calls George, Freddy, and Jimmy into a meeting to inform them of a breach. During the satellite redirect, a different Russian operative, Pavelchuk, escaped from a safe house with a copy of Severus, with the intent to cause a nuclear meltdown. Arthur suspects someone on the inside of orchestrating this event, with his eyes in George's direction because of the redirect. During the meeting, it is revealed that Severus is software used in nuclear reactors. Clarissa comes to Freddy's office and tells him she helped George. Freddy tells Catherine that George suspects her of being the mole. George and Catherine eventually talk to each other regarding the issue and realize that someone is setting a trap for both of them. They decide to work to weed the mole out themselves. George goes fishing again and calls Jimmy to go fishing. Meanwhile, Catherine gets Clarissa to track the Russian operatives. George asks Jimmy about the 7 million pounds in Zurich, but he has no information about that. Catherine gives the information about the Russian operative to an American intelligence officer. Later, George confronts Arthur under the suspicion that he conspired to have Severus leak to create a nuclear meltdown and destabilize the government, even at the risk of thousands of lives. The Russians are tracked down and blown up in a drone strike by the CIA. George has Clarissa, Freddy, Jimmy, and Zoe put through a lie detector test to determine when each of them first learned about Severus. After George and Catherine go over their research, they invite the four of them over for another tense dinner party. Catherine puts a gun in the middle of the table while secrets start to get revealed. First, George outs Freddy and Zoe for having an affair, which is how Zoe first learned of Severus. They also reveal that Jimmy was working with Arthur to leak Severus and kill thousands, while Zoe and Freddy tried to use Catherine to stop it. Zoe's devout Catholic faith also prevented her from allowing Severus to cause a meltdown. Jimmy grabs the gun and admits to his guilt, as well as to killing Meacham. He tries to shoot George, but the gun has blanks. Catherine shoots Jimmy dead in front of everyone. Catherine uses this to warn the others not to screw with her and George's faith in each other. They both get rid of Jimmy's body. Catherine later tells Arthur his plan has failed. At night, George and Catherine reaffirm their love for one another and remember that there is still the matter of the 7 million pounds left untouched in the Zurich account.
Please like and subscribe.